Hello everyone, welcome to Tathastu ICS. A very good evening to all of you. A very good evening again who all are online right now. So I am going to take your DNA session for today, and this is the front page of your newspaper, and we are going to cover the both important news which are there on your front page. Okay, so let's see which news are important. Before that, you should be knowing that this is the QR code from where you can access the PDF files of these DNA sessions, right? So let's look at the topics first, okay, which are the topics which we need to understand today. So the first topic is related to the Supreme Court's order to regulate user content on internet. So Supreme Court has asked government that there are so many cases which are coming in the front of Supreme Court where the issues are related to the abuse which is being faced by the people or the victims on internet, right? So the Supreme Court is asking government that we need more regulation. We need to regulate the content on the internet. We already have certain criteria and the policy through which we are regulating the content on the internet, but according to the Supreme Court that is not enough. We need to do more. Okay, so we are going to understand everything in detail, what is actually the issue, and along with that we are also going to understand that what is the what are the directions which are given by the Supreme Court, right? Now the second is the burden of proof. This is an important editorial on your editorial page, and in this editorial it is beautifully shown that the spatial intensive revision by the Election Commission of India, how it is putting the burden of the proof on the people. Burden of the proof regarding what? Here they are talking about the burden of the proof that you are the citizen of this country. Burden of proof that you are a citizen, okay? So that burden should be on government, right? ये burden किस पे होना चाहिए? This burden should be on government, but now this burden is on people, because in SIR, in spatial intensive revision, when the block level officer was going towards people's home and they were asking them to show their documents, okay? So they told them that you need to fill a particular form, and that form should be based on certain kind of documents. If there is a person, maybe an old lady who doesn't have that kind of document, but she is the citizen of India, she is voting throughout history, she has voted let's say for last decade, but right now she is not able to, if she is not able to show her document, it means is she not a citizen of this country? So these are the issue which is going to be highlighted in this particular editorial. Now next third article or the news is related to the BrahMos deal which is happening between India and Indonesia, right? So India is having this deal with Indonesia as well when it comes to BrahMos. BrahMos is actually our indigenous missile, right? With the help of the Russia we have made it, and now we are actually having this defense partnership with the other countries also. Now it is something, BrahMos is actually something we are selling to the other countries also. This is for the first time. Earlier we used to purchase these missiles and these technology from the West or the other countries. For the first time we are the one who are giving it to other one, right? Now fourth article or the fourth news is related to the recent labor laws. Okay, labor laws we had since from 2019 to 23, we actually passed 4 labor laws. Now these labor laws are recently being implemented by the government, hence there are so many articles related to the labor laws. So we are going to discuss one of that article, that what all is consisted in those labor laws. So this is very important one, because now we are doing something which is in a very positive direction. Our fifth news is going to focus on, obviously the news is not very important, but we need to understand what are the issues with our statistical these parameters like GDP, GNP, CPI. Okay, now according to the IMF, International Monetary according to IMF, that India's these parameters, GDP, GNP, or you can say that CPI, they are actually of B or C grade. They gave overall the C grade to India's national accounts statistics. They are saying that yes, this data can be usable, data which is on the basis of which our GDP is there, GDP depends. They say that the data is fine, but there are so many errors which are related to data. Hence, we all know that GDP is something which is going to tell about a country's economic health. If an organization such as IMF is saying that the data which is provided by the India, on the basis of which India is calculating its GDP, is of a C grade data, so it is not a good thing for India as a country. We need to improve on that. They gave CPI the B grade, which is a better one, and they gave GDP or GVA as a GVA C grade, okay, which is not good, because in grading system there will only 4 grades, A, B, C and D, and they gave C grade to our GDP and GVA and B grade to our CPI, the inflation जिससे हम मापते हैं, okay. Now let's start our discussion, and we are going to take news one by one. So the first news is related to the Supreme Court's order regarding the content on the internet. Now let's understand what is the background, why this issue have come up in the first place. We all know that the social media allows everyone to create and upload videos. So we have a lot of UGC. What is UGC? User generated content. Okay, you can create content on internet anytime. You can easily create content within a second on Instagram, right? So it is very easy to create the content and upload that content. Okay, here is no regulation related to that. It means no one is thinking before posting anything. We all know about that. This is the reality. Now according what is the issue now? Because it is very easy to upload video, upload commentary, upload reels. It is so easy, but it spread very fast, and it often contains obscene or adult content. There is a possibility it can contain so much of misinformation. It can be defamatory claims also. It can be content labeled as anti-national sometime, and there can be the content that damages the reputation within minutes. For example, a reel is out, it damages the reputation of a person within minutes, or let's say within 1 hour, but there is a 24-hour policy. Even if you are going to report to that content to the social media intermediaries, they will tell you that within 24 hours we are going to solve your issue, but reputation can be damaged within 1 hour. Okay, you don't need 24 hours for that, right? Now next, even though the platforms, right, just give me a second, even though these platforms can remove harmful content, but they take at least 24 hours. In 24 hours, anything can happen. People can feel bad about it. There can be suicides. There can be, multiplication of this data and the, forwarding of this a particular data. Hence, the court need to intervene. That this harm which is being done within the minutes, it is actually irreversible. So what do we need to do? So this whole judgment or the whole instruction by the Supreme Court was according to that. Now let's understand what all is being said by Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court is saying that first of all we need, Supreme Court has set 4 to 5 suggestions. First of all, Supreme Court is saying that we need a proper guideline for the user generated content. Right now we don't have a guideline for the user. Obviously there are basic guidelines, that you should not be generating that or this kind of content, but the people are doing it anyway, right? The Supreme Court asked the Ministry of the Information and Broadcasting to draft new guidelines that can prevent the harmful user generated content from going viral before the removal. So we need to have a plan where we can easily remove a content before going viral. We don't have that kind of mechanism right now. Second thing that is being pointed by the Supreme Court is that there needs to have an independent authority. Independent means an authority which is not controlled by government as well as not controlled by the private broadcaster. Hence, it can be only the independent, and we can make that particular body the autonomous body. अच्छा, ये जो कमेंट सेक्शन है ना, इसको जूम कर दो, ओके, ताकि मुझे अच्छे से दिखाई दे, और जूम कर दो. All right, done. Now, so this is to create a neutral system of scrutiny. So we can actually have this. So the first thing which is being mentioned by Supreme Court is that we need to have proper guideline. Ministry of Broadcasting was being instructed for that, and second proposal is to have an independent authority which is going to, which is going to have an impartial outcome of that particular content. Now, the third point which is being suggested. Actually, this point was just the part of the discussion. It was not something which is being imposed by the Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court is saying that why don't we have a Aadhaar based age verification, okay. So it's a suggestion, it's not an order. What is the meaning of Aadhaar based verification? For example, you open a website then and they tell you that it is an adult content and there is only few second pause, okay. There are only few seconds. Within few seconds, a person can easily access the content and there is a possibility the user is below 18 years, right. So the children can easily access the adult content on social media or on other websites also. Now, the Supreme Court is saying that why don't we have Aadhaar based age verification? Actually, this suggestion is bit difficult to implement, okay. It's really bit difficult to implement because no one wants to give their Aadhaar data, right. So if there can be a possibility, if there is a Aadhaar based age verification, that whoever is accessing that adult content, that person is above 18 years of age, okay. So there is some suggestion by the Supreme Court. Other than that, Supreme Court has said that okay, you please apply all these measures, but the aim of the Supreme Court is not to curb the free speech which comes under Article 19(1). It means that you can easily criticize the government, you can easily criticize a policy, you can criticize something else also, but it has to be in a respectable manner. You can use your free right to speech, but that should not lead to the defamation of a person in general. So this is all which is being said by the Supreme Court regarding the content on internet, right. Now, let's look at our next article, which is the burden of proof. Okay. Someone say preventing account table due to low post, then how to increase salary monthly. Can you ask the question again? What are you asking about? Now, let's come to the second article, which is the burden of proof. Burden of proof, the article is related to spatial intensive revision, which is being conducted by the Election Commission of India. We had so many articles which are based on the spatial intensive revision. So, it was actually from the outside, if you look at the spatial intensive revision, it looks at a very, very good exercise, very, something which we actually needed, but the process of spatial intensive revision had so many flaws, right. On the basis of this flaw, there were so many, contradictions related to SIR, right. Now, what is the issue? First, we need to understand that. First, you need to understand that the Election Commission of India is conducting a process which is known as spatial intensive revision for electoral rolls in 12 state and union territories. What is the purpose of SIR? Purpose of SIR is to renew the voter list. Okay? So, we have a voter list. Now, we are renewing that voter list. We want to see that there can be the multiplication of the voter ID. We want to remove those voter ID. We want to add new voter IDs. There are so many people who are eligible voters, but they don't have the voter ID. So, the idea of the SIR is to have an intensive house-to-house survey. We are going to go to those houses, we are going to collect the information, and then we are going to revise the voter list on the basis of those documents which we have collected. Now, what is the issue right now? Okay, let's understand the issue. Issue is in the method of the SIR. SIR as a purpose, the purpose of SIR is very good, but the process and the method of SIR has so many flaws, such as voter receive enumeration form from block level officers, right. Block level officers are going to the house of each and every person and they are receiving enumeration forms. So, you can just think that some kind of form they are receiving from the people. They must fill details and match them with the old electoral record from 2002 to 2005, right. So, the moment they are going to get the document from a household, they need to match it with the old, old records. If their match is successful, then their name stays in the voter list. So, this is the basic method. What is the flaw in this method? It means if you are not getting the document for some reason, okay, then your name is not going to be remain in the voter list. This is something which is actually we need to think about, because even if there are 10% people, okay, who are not able to fill these form, okay, there are people who are not able to fill this form, there is a possibility, because people in general are poor, they don't know where their documents are, some documents are outdated, okay, there can be such kind of possibility. So does it mean it means that 10% people are out of the voter list? So this is something we need to think about. Why it is raising concern? The Election Commission of India say that the most forms have been delivered, right? That most of the forms are there with us, but many genuine voters are still struggling to get the forms. There are so many voters, they didn't even get the form. It is being said to us that these BLO, the block level officers, are going to go house to house, but there is possibility that there are some people who didn't even get the form. It is only being said by the Election Commission of India, right? Obviously on the ground there will be so many households where block level officer didn't even go, right? BLOs are not making the required home visit. This is also something problematic. People are confused about which document they must provide for the inclusion in the voter list. So this is the issue which is being faced by the people, right? Now the article is saying that there is some sort of constitutional and legal concerns related to this method of collection of the documents. What are the issues? Let's look at the Guwahati High Court judgment of 1919. According to that, anyone who is a habitual resident of a place, someone who is already living in a particular area, okay, and intends to live there permanently, is also known as ordinary residents, right? Such a person should be presumed to be a valid voter. So this is the judgment which is already given by the Guwahati High Court, right? But how this is being reversed under SIR? SIR ने इसको कैसे change कर दिया? SIR reverse this principle. How? Now, earlier in this principle, in the Guwahati judgment, the state had to prove if a person is a voter or not, okay? So it's the duty of the state to prove that the person is a voter or not. It means if someone is not an ordinary resident, then the government can say that, but it is up to the government to prove that. But now every voter must prove that they are legitimate voter. Voter. Now the burden of the proof is laid on the people. So this is the shift which is being talked by the article. Even people who have voted for years must prove their status using old or difficult documents. There is a possibility. It creates a risk of masked disfranchisement, especially for married women, right? Who change their homes, migrants who don't have any document from 2002 to 2005, and the poor and marginalized group who don't even have a house. They are the voter. Even if someone doesn't have a house, that doesn't mean the person is not a citizen of our country. Especially in the Bihar, the SIR caused a sharp decline in the women's voter ratio. This fact itself tells us a lot that there is a possibility that we have the flaws in the methods of collecting SIR. Okay, so this is what the article is talking about. Now, article is saying that what is the core issue here? The core issue here is the Election Commission of India seems to be prioritizing the purity or the purifying the voter list. They are focusing on, let's remove the voters from the list who don't have the document. This is the purpose of the Election Commission of India, which is protecting. Okay, so this is where they are focusing, but where they need to focus on protecting the right to vote. This is also Election Commission of India should be done, which is a fundamental right, right? The court must decide now. Should citizens bear the burden of proof they deserve to be in the role now, or should the Election Commission of India ensure error-free enrollment as always been done historical? So these are the two solutions actually. Or so should the citizens bear the burden? This should not be there. Okay. So this is something problematic. This is something we should be doing. Election Commission of India must ensure error-free enrollment. Okay. The burden of the proof should not be on the citizen. It should be the Election Commission of India which need to have an error-free enrollment. Okay. So that is all about this article. Very beautiful article. If you understand the article, you can easily get that how how some methods, even the intentions are right, their methodology can create historical errors, right? Now, let's come to the next article, which is related to India and Indonesia make progress on BrahMos, okay, missile deal. Now, What is that? India and Indonesia moved towards a BrahMos supersonic cruise missile sale. A senior official has finalized that. Now, why it matters to us? Indonesia is going to be the next. Before that, we already had the deal with the Philippines. Why it matters? Because BrahMos is one of the fastest cruise missile. It is supersonic also, and it has precision strike also. Exporting it boosts India's defense diplomacy and strengthen Indonesia's coastal security. Now, there are two important factors. First of all, what is the meaning of, boosting India's defense diplomacy? What is the meaning of defense diplomacy, and why we are interested in the countries such as Philippines and Indonesia? Why? Look, Philippines and Indonesia both are the ASEAN countries, okay? And the ASEAN countries, they both lie in Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific in general is very, very important. If you look at India's foreign policy, why Indo-Pacific is important? In general, Indo-Pacific is important because of trade. Okay, the world trade, the world maritime trade actually happens through your Indo-Pacific. Hence, the waters of the Indo-Pacifics are very, very important. And if you know about the Malacca Strait, it is a very narrow strait between your Malaysia and your Indonesia. Okay, let's say your Indonesia, Malaysia, this is your Malacca Strait, and now we have India here, right? So, Malacca Strait is not very far away from India. And for India also, this strait is very important, and in general the ASEAN countries are very important. Okay, we need to have hold over the ASEAN countries. Other than that, there is a China factor also. We are not on a very good terms with China. China is having the South China Sea dispute with these ASEAN countries only. So, they are already little bit fearful of the China, and the India can provide some sort of refuge. Obviously, China is not going to sell them the missiles, but they need the maritime security. They as a country, the countries such as Indonesia, Philippines, they need to have their maritime security, and India is just helping them out. Why India as a country is helping them out, and how it is going to affect us diplomatically? First of all, if they are going to have missiles such as BrahMos, then they can have a better, surveillance in their waters, which is actually going to contain China in itself, right? The first point is that. The second point is that if we are the one who are going to provide that, then they can actually, these are the small country. India is a large country. China is a very large country. They can look at India also. They need not to look. The smaller countries always look for bigger countries for the help in general cooperation at the world level. If the China is creating problem to them, they have multiple options. They can move towards the USA also, they can move towards Australia also, they can move towards the Russia also, they can move towards in general Europe also. But India is in their much better neighborhood. And if India is having such kind of defense deals with them, then they can rely on India as well. And for us, they are important, and for them, we are important. Hence, such kind of diplomacy is known as your defense diplomacy. Other than that, it strengthens Indonesia's coastal security. This is a very general point. Now, article also talks about the Indo-Pacific cooperation. Okay, I have already told you Indo-Pacific in general is very, very important. Both countries reaffirmed commitment to a free, open, stable, user-based Indo-Pacific. What is the meaning of free Indo-Pacific? Free Indo-Pacific means the waters of Indo-Pacific should be free, because if there is some sort of, if there is the control of, let's say, China on Indo-Pacific, let's say China is the biggest factor in the Indo-Pacific. If there is a fear of China in the Indo-Pacific, then obviously the water of the Indo-Pacific is not going to remain free, and it is going to hurt us a lot, because most of our trade is going through the Indo-Pacific only. Emphasize international law and sovereignty, right? And highlighted the alignment between these are the actually organizations which are being specifically are focusing specially on your Indo-Pacific, such as ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, AOIP. This is actually ASEAN's outlook to Indo-Pacific. Second, India's Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, IPOI. So, in what are the strategy which India is having to have a better management in the Indo-Pacific? And the third, Indian Ocean Rim Association. Actually, IORA is an organization of the countries which are surrounding the Indian Ocean. Okay, obviously India as well as the countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia is also part of that. Most of the ASEAN countries are also the part of your IORA, right? So these organizations, they actually have highlighted these organizations. We should be knowing about these organizations. Why? In general, look, for international relation, Indo-Pacific is very important. If you look at the UPSC's questions that is being asked in last few years, you will see that UPSC is asking questions based on Indo-Pacific in general. If you have PSIR option, then uses should be your favorite topic in general, right? So Indo-Pacific is very important when it comes to trade also, and you know that the major factor which is dominating the world is the economic factor. Now let's come to the next article, which is related to the modernization of the labor ecosystem. So enabling a modern and future ready labor ecosystem. First of all, we need to understand the background, what all is happening. For decades, India's labor laws were scattered, okay, since the independence. So we have 29 plus separate acts which were created at different times after the independence, right? And some of them are from pre-independent era also. This made the compliance difficult and left many workers, especially who are working in the informal sector, or you can say that the unrecognized worker, they were actually outside the protection of the laws, because these laws were a little bit of outdated. They were not up to the demand of the current situation. Hence, the Second National Commission on Labor Law recommended that why don't we have the new laws which are going to cover all these laws and are very much modernized according to the need of the hour, right? Hence, on the basis of that, we pass 4 labor codes between 2019 to 2022. Now let's look at those labor codes as well. First of all, we have codes on wages, we have industrial relation code, we have social security code, and we have occupational safety, health and the working condition code 2020. What happened? Why these articles are coming to these days? Because on November 21st in this year only, the government implemented all these 4 codes. These codes were already there, but they were not being implemented. In India, these things happen. First, there can be an act. For example, Data Protection Act was already passed in 2023, but it is being implemented now after 2 years. Similarly, these codes are already being passed in 2019 and 20, but they are going to be implemented now. Now, article is going to tell us what all is there in these, what is the crux of these codes. First of all, these codes give the stronger protection to the workers. So, universal minimum wages plus which is related to the national floor wage. So, it is being defined. Other than that, mandatory appointment letter are being mentioned in these codes. Timely wage payment is also being recommended, and the clear working hours 48 hours per week is also being mandated by the government in these codes. Other than that, better safety standard and free health checkups are also under the OSH, this one, okay, the health and working condition code. Other than that, wider social security is being provided, extended, which is extended across India, not only in specific state. Also, easier EPF procedures are there. Other than that, the support fund for the unrecognized and the construction workers are also being mentioned. Other than that, gig and platform workers, which is something very new, is also included for the first time, right? Now, other than that, what all are there in these codes? These codes are also not only benefiting the workers, they are benefiting the businessman also. So, first of all, they are the single registration is required for a company, okay, if it has a worker. Single license you need, single return you need, digital inspections are there which are based on algorithm, and the minor offense discriminalized. It means if there is a minor offense, the company is not going to be criminalized. Other than that, uniform definition of wages is there which we actually require. Obviously, the future focus is there of the future of the work. Gig and platform economy must grow from 1 crore to, we know that. So, future perspective is also being given, that we are already thinking that now the gig economy is going to increase from present day 1 crore economy to 2.35 crore, and the codes prepared for flexible work, digital livelihood and workplace modernization based on this assumption. Other than that, there is a boost for women also. For example, equal remuneration is being assured. Other than that, enhanced maternity benefits are mentioned. night shift are being allowed, obviously based on their consent, and social security for the women, especially in unorganized and gig work is also being mentioned or recommended by these codes. That's why these codes are very, very modern, and these codes actually change the environment. Now, let's come to our next article, which is related to the C grade, which is being provided by International Monetary Fund to India's national account statistics. So, what is the issue here? First, let's understand the background. So, what is happening that every year IMF reviews the quality of the economic data produced by the country. What is the economic data? Economic data is such as your GDP value, your GVA, your inflation, your CPI. So, these are the data on the basis of which we actually know about our economy, that where our economy is going. Now, IMF checks whether these economic statistics used for policy making are reliable, timely or accurate or not. So, good quality national statistics are important because the government, investor and the global institution are also depend on this data only if they want to judge the economy of a particular country, right? So, they judge an economy on the basis of these parameters. Now, authenticity of these parameters are also very, very important, right? Hence, the IMF started this grading system. So, with this, what happened? IMF has given India's national account statistic, mainly GDP and GVA, a grade C, which is second lowest. The first is A and it is go till D. So, it's A grade, B grade, C grade and D grade, and we got the C grade, right? C grade ka, what is the meaning of C grade? The data is available and useful, but there are weaknesses that limit accuracy and reliability. This is also being mentioned. Basically, we didn't get the good ranking or the good grade. Why did IMF give C to the GDP? First of all, they are saying that your base year is very much outdated. It's 2011-12. A lot has changed in that. India's economy had a drastic change after 2011-12. So, we need to change the base year. Second, the old consumption pattern and the price level don't reflect today's reality. Hence, this is the one major issue why they gave the C grade. Second, the use of the wholesale price index for deflators, right? So, they are saying that you need to be using PPI. We don't use PPI in India, but we use in India, we use WPI, especially if we are calculating GDP or GVA. We don't even use CPI, we use WPI. WPI is wholesale price index, okay? And wholesale price index basically focus more on the goods. They mostly ignore the service part. So, WPI is not ideal for service in general, and also it affects the accuracy of the GDP growth rate also. So, that's why the WPI and the base year, these are the two reasons why IMF has given C grade to our indicators. Other than that, they are saying that there is a large differences between the GDP and GDP production method and GDP expenditure method. Why there is a difference? Because sometimes the production side and expenditure side GDP don't match at all. They should be matching. If the data is accurate, then they should be matching. If they are not matching, obviously the data is inaccurate. So, this is the third reason they gave the C grade. Other than that, India has a large unrecognized sector. So, to measure the value of the unrecognized sector is very difficult for us. Hence, again, one of the reasons they think that our data is not that much accurate. But when it comes to CPI, they gave a better grade. They gave B grade to your CPI, okay, consumer price index. Obviously, the main issue is still there. The base year is still 2011-12. But they say the consumption basket and weights are again outdated, hence no A grade. Today's spending habits is not being reflected in the basket list of your CPI as well, right? So, this is all about today's newspaper. These were the important news, right? Out of these news, actually today's all of news were important. Some of are, you just need to remember that these things are happening. Other than that, the analytical news you need to understand in a bit deeper way, right? So, any question if you have, you can ask me right now. Yes, you are right, including social security. Okay, then we can end the session for today, and we are going to meet again tomorrow. So till then, very good evening to all of you. Have a very nice day.